For our icebreaker tonight, I just want you to think about this. Who is your favorite superhero? Who is your favorite superhero? Think about that as I go on, because I'm going to ask you, why is that person your favorite superhero? And I want us to share what we may feel be our superpowers. Okay, so that's our little icebreaker for tonight. Who is your favorite superhero, and really, why? Okay, and I'm just going to share something here. And for those of you that know, let me just share this right quick. Once again, welcome to your success. Welcome to your success at 2020 Radical Gold Diggers. For our new people tonight, 2020 is not about the year. 2020 is about you having a 2020 vision of yourself and knowing that your future is bright. So that's what 2020 Radical Gold Diggers is. It's about the future, and where God wants to take us. And we use biblical principles to do just that, that we know that we can apply to what we're trying to do. And each of us is on a different quest. We're all doing something different. So for our 5th week, I promised you guys in August we would have guest speakers, right? And tonight we have Dr. Sonia Robinson, who's going to really speak to us about the psychology around a mindset for success. And, we know that Gold Diggers is not just about motivating one another, but it's also about us coming together and really finding that spiritual walk that God would want us to have. So she's going to speak more about that in a little while. I'm going to give her a formal introduction. But for the last few weeks, we've talked about, our topics have been tuning in and tuning out. And we had Regina Edworth Thompson talk to us more about tuning out, all those things that can keep us distracted. So, that was a great conversation. I talked about making it stick. We don't want to quit. There's no quitters here. We want to make it stick because it's so important that we stay focused. And we talked about persistence and perseverance and the difference between the two. And that really helped us to stay grounded in what we're trying to do. And once again, tonight, we're going to talk about, the psychology around the mindset for success. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to my icebreaker. I want someone to share with me why they've picked a certain superhero. Who is your superhero and why? Anybody want to speak to that for icebreaker tonight? We all have superheroes, and they don't have to be a cartoon character. They could be whatever you deem a superhero in your life, and why. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I have a will.
I can jump in.
Great. Thank you.
My superhero is I don't know if anyone watched on Netflix, Luke Cage, and he's Power Man, and he fights crime in Harlem. But the reason why I like him is because he has unbreakable skin. So I like him because he has a thick skin. And with
like
all
that.
that we go through, we have to have a thick skin.
Amen to that. Amen. So that reminds you that you can't be thin-skinned in this world around us, to have a tough skin. I like that. I like that, Desi. And I'm sure that helps you with your superpower, right?
Yes.
What do you think your superpower is then?
Resilience.
Okay. Amen. Well, I know that is definitely one of your superpowers, have watched you this past year. For some of you don't know this, but Gold Diggers, we're coming up on a year, and Desi has been here since its inception. And that's all I've seen in Desi is a lot of resilience. So God bless you, and thank you for sharing that for our icebreaker. Anyone else have anything they want to share as it relates to a superhero?
I will, Dita. This is Janice.
Hey, Janice.
I'm trying to get my video to work. Okay, there it is.
I see you.
For this is I guess not a conventional one, but
Right.
Tabitha Brown, the social media influencer and
Oh,
actor.
yes, yes.
And the reason she is my superhero is because no matter what the situation, she always tries to stay positive. And even in a world where people are talking about you and they're not always nice to you, she always tries to find the good and the God in everyone. So she's my
I like that. I like
and I won't say that and I guess for me it's working on having that positive attitude continually, like in the situation and seeing the positive in every situation.
Right, right. And you know what? It's so funny because our Tabitha turned me on to that Tabitha. And I was just like, who is this person? And I just, oh my God, I was so glad that she introduced me to this Tabitha. And she has that. She is just so optimistic. She will not let anything steal her joy, no matter what it is.
Right.
And I'm telling you, that is really a great superhero, because she is just showing people that we don't have to get bent out of shape. Things are going to happen. Things are going to happen, but it's how we react to them is matters, you know. And she has definitely, I love her style.
I do too.
Her style. I love her attitude when she's talking about it. It was like she gets right in there, like, listen to this. And and it's just so cool, you know. And she's just being herself. And that's what I like. If we just be ourselves, you know, and she's just being herself. Yeah, I haven't met anybody like her. You know, she is just being herself and using all that she is to inspire the rest of the world and show us some light, because there's so much darkness around us. There's so much darkness. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. Well, that means I didn't have to call anybody out. Thank you very, very much. Okay. Dr. Robinson is here with us. I'm going to give her a formal introduction. So if you guys can, I believe everyone is on mute, but I'm going to give her a formal introduction. Number one, I am proud to say that Dr. Sonia Robinson is my cousin, and I am so proud of her and all that she has done. She obtained her Bachelor's of Art in Psychology from Hampton University. She obtained her Master's of Social Work from Howard University in Washington, D.C. And she obtained her doctorate in philosophy and psychology from Wharton University in Minnesota, Minneapolis. And now she works as a professor at, I believe it is Straight, it's on here somewhere. Yeah, Straight University. And I'm just very proud that she is using her life to inspire people at the university and teaching them all about psychology and just being a blessing to the world. What I can tell you about Sonia, she has a 16-year-old daughter, and right now she is actually somewhere at a, I believe it's a soccer ball training tonight for her daughter, but she still did not cancel on us. She says, no, I'm going to be there, and she's going to speak to us to keep us in the right perspective while we're on this 8-week challenge. What I have shared with her is that each of you have shown your strengths. Each of you have shown so much strength in what you're trying to do. And we want to keep going that way because we want to keep growing. And what makes us grow is information, good information. And Dr. Robinson is going to give us some information that can keep us focused in the mindset for success. Some of us have some really big dreams and we get anxiety when we go through these challenges and you just want to quit and, all these things that happen to you when you're embarking on things that you don't normally embark on. So she's going to speak to the psychology around a mindset for success. So Dr. Robinson, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. I'm probably the only one that's not on mute, so good evening.
Okay. I wanted to start tonight with a question, and the question is, what do we think motivates us to do whatever that we're going to do? What do we think motivates us?
And you could take it off mute if you want to speak.
This is Lisa. For me, it's if I love something and I have a passion for it and it brings me joy, that's a huge motivator for me.
Okay.
A lot of people are motivated when they're doing setting goals and aspiring to do new things by financial gain. And for me, all the money in the world doesn't matter if I'm not happy and I don't feel joy in what I'm doing. So fulfillment and joy and being able to help others, being of service to others is definitely a motivator for me.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Don't be shy. What motivates you?
I kind of agree. Good afternoon to everyone. Agree with, I think, Ms. Turner. Motivation for me is to see someone else happy, to fulfill goals. That's a motivator for me. Like I was thinking some people probably going to say money is a motivator, but all the money in the world doesn't bring happiness. So I think to see others happy, that's a motivator for me as well.
Okay.
Very good. Very good.
So when we think about the goals that we've set forth for ourselves, short term and both long term, how do we measure success and whether or not, well, I guess two things. How do we measure success? And then how do we handle setbacks?
Well, I can talk to the one goal I had of losing weight. I got sick, and so I had a huge setback. I've been sick for at least a few weeks through this 8-week challenge, and I was starting to feel a little defeated. Like, oh, okay, now I have to put in more steps and I have to walk harder. And I got on the scale and I lost 3 pounds. So, in spite of my setbacks, in spite of not being able to get in the steps, I still lost 3 pounds. So it kind of reinvigorated me and said, oh, okay, let me just keep going. So I didn't lose hope, even though I started to kind of beat myself up a little bit.
Right. Amen to that. Okay.
Yes.
Hi, this is Desiree. I measure success on how I respond to my setbacks.
Okay. So can you elaborate a little? What does that look like?
Like I just I'm recovering from a stroke, so I'm successful by maintaining my goal of becoming 110%, and that's what makes me make me feel successful. Like every day when I complete all the tasks that I have written down, I feel successful. And also just watching other people as an example, like my cousin Deetra, and my cousin, Dr. Page. You know, they're just great examples of successful women. And
Mhm.
that's Angela and everyone on here, just great examples of successful women.
Okay. So just to piggyback on something you said, so say worst case scenario, you're unable to check off all the tasks that you had for the day. How does that make you feel?
I know I have a goal for the next day. It
Okay,
doesn't make me feel like a failure. I just know I have to
wonderful.
prioritize my time better and be more prepared the next day.
Okay, okay. So is it necessary that it's not that you're not prioritizing your day, but just that for whatever reason that you completed what you were supposed to for the day?
Yeah, and sometimes I will just add too many tasks that you need more time in order to complete. So I overextend myself, and that's when that's when I'll just continue it for the next day.
Okay, okay, okay. Because one thing that I would like for us to walk away with is when we have our goals, of course, to do sub goals so that we are able to be successful and not feel like, ooh, I didn't meet what I wanted to do for today or for this week, and be okay with it.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that, for me is a big thing. Because sometimes we need the rest. Our body needs the rest. Always tell my daughter, slow down. You're having me running 50 miles an hour. And if you don't slow down and get the rest, then your body's going to shut you down, and you don't want that.
Yes.
So I try to tell her to get a better schedule, but because I guess I'm mommy, I'm talking to the wall. Yeah. So
I agree with what Desi is saying and what you're saying about the sub, because sometimes I can feel bad that I didn't achieve what I set out to achieve, and then I have to catch myself and say, well, who do you think that you are? It's going to be done in God's time.
yes.
And you set out to do it, but I'm a firm believer that you're responsible for the effort, not the outcome. And if I didn't get to it for whatever reason, I could have got blindsided by something with my own children or whatever it is, that I had to do better, but not feeling bad when I didn't reach a goal or do what I set out to do, because I'm a lister. I'm a lister, and I just want to check. So I like what you said there. Some time, yeah.
Yeah. And what I do, especially in where I have all my lists, I'll just put a tab. So, and then I like colors. So like a pink tag may be, hey, as soon as you can come back to this, where orange is like, hey, come back to it, but you don't have to come back to it, say next week, if I didn't finish it this week, just to help me, like you said, not become upset.
Right.
I did want to share with the group one thing that I had told Deidre earlier, that, we know what we want to do. And, God is always, he's leading us, whether we know it or not. And I was sharing that when I began teaching in 2011, part-time, I knew eventually I wanted to go full-time. And I had shared that I had a dream where one of my old students had came into my dream and asked me to meet her somewhere and have a conversation with her aunt. Now, if you paid me $1 million to tell you what her aunt looked like in this dream, I won't win it. But at the end of the conversation, her aunt said to me, hey, I want you to come and teach at Shaw. And I was in Maryland and Shaw is in North Carolina. And I was like, North Carolina wasn't even on my radar. Mm-hmm. And I woke up and I said, okay, Lord, if that's what you have and that's what you want me to do, you will make everything work out. And he did. And I just took that leap of faith. And I know that a lot of times we're scared to take that leap of faith. But I'm learning now that if it's truly what he wants us to do, he's going to catch us. When, we may still have our stumbles, but it's okay. Mm-hmm. And that's what I try to tell my students now. Like I had a student the other day who I try to tell my students, stay on campus, don't move off. But they move off, and then they have the issue of, I have to pay rent now. So the focus kind of changes. So I had a student the other day say, well, you know, Dr. Robinson, how many credits do I have? I said, well, you only have 68. So she's probably a first semester junior. And so she was upset. And I'm like, well, whose race are you running? When you finish is when you finish. You are not going to tell anybody, or you can't tell somebody. If somebody says, well, you should be done now, who are they to tell you that? Mm-hmm. You know, when you cross that finish line with that goal, that's all that matters. And I have to remind her about that. And it's funny because I was telling a colleague about our conversation, and she automatically said, okay, stop talking to me right now. And I was oblivious because I was like, what do you mean? But she's in school for her doctorate, and she took stats this summer, and it's kicking her tail, and she was ready to give up. And then she said, talking to you made me realize, okay, I may have had the setback of not passing statistics, but I'm going to still finish. And I didn't even realize that what she was going through. I was just telling her a conversation that I had with a student at work. So that made me feel better, because I'm like, we don't realize when we can touch someone else.
Exactly. And that's what Gold Dig is about. When we share our stories, you never know which one of us in here is being inspired, and the energy that you're bringing tonight of how you got through these rough hurdles, and how you can speak to them now, to people, because you've experienced it. And I believe that God allows us to go through those rough roads and those rough alleys just so we can come out with the experience to help someone else that's trying to do the same thing. So let me ask you this, Dr. Robinson. We're all in here to complete our 8-week challenges. Some of us are not on an 8-week challenge, but in a challenge of their own, of something that they're trying to overcome or do. And through your studies in psychology, what would you say in the brain is the psychology around the mindset of keeping that mindset for success, keeping that mindset?
So it goes back to, like, we spoke about earlier, what motivates us? Why do we want to become successful, and how can we accomplish those goals? So that goes back to the sub goals. So I may have the bigger goal of, like with Kayla, she said she wants to become either a biochemical engineer or a biochemist because she wants to make cosmetics. So her sub goals, of course, after graduation from high school, is I have to go to college, and then I have to go get my master's, and eventually she says she wants to get her doctorate. So she has those sub goals of, hey, I know this is the plan, and now how do we meet those? Which is what helps with success. Of course, it's not going to happen overnight, but what can I do? Like I tell my students, when we talk about Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, and he feels that, if the bottom level of food and basic needs and security are not met, you can't move up. And then once you move up to the top, which is self-actualization, I pose the question of, do you think we're done? We've met the goal. We set a goal today, say hypothetically losing weight. So I've met a goal of losing weight. I hit it. Does that mean I'm self-actualized, or am I going to strive for another goal? And so then we have that conversation of, you're right. And after because at first they're like, nope, I just want to graduate from college. I want to get my bachelor's and I'm done. And I'm like, well, are you? Right. Well, you don't have the desire to get a job. And they're like, oh, I guess since you put it that way. And I said, as humans, we're always striving for more, even if it's a small goal. Mm-hmm. It could be a small goal of, I want to do I want to finish my backyard so that I can sit out and relax when I retire.
Oh my goodness. There's somebody on this call that did just that, but go ahead. Because we're most of us are older people that, we have completed some successes, but now we're getting into another realm of our life, and there's so much more that we want to do. I mean, we had to empty the nest, or we have our time in, and now we're jumping into what we feel like we didn't get a chance to do for ourselves and want to walk in our purpose. So that's what I was asking you at this juncture of the road. What is that psychology that's going to keep us like, hey, it's not over? I always tell people I got another 50 years, I feel like, the way the people live in our family, you know, and this.
Yes. So when we think about our development through the lifespan, Erik Erikson is one person that he goes literally from birth to death. We have some like, you know, Kohlberg and Freud, they may stop at adolescence.
What name did you say?
Which one? Erik Erikson?
Oh, Erik Erikson. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He has his 8 psychosocial stages. So he feels that at every stage we go through something and we have a crisis, and whether or not how we come through that crisis, whether or not we're stagnant. So like 18, there your goal is to form intimate relationships. So the goal there is to find a partner, you know, eventually get married and then move on. In like, you know, middle adulthood, you start to late adulthood, you start to say, okay, now we're getting towards retirement. You know, am I happy with what life that I've had? And if you are, then wonderful, but you never want to, you know, his thought is you don't want to be despaired. You don't want to be stagnant. You always want to be happy. And so that's how just developmentally we continue. I have some people that don't believe in that. They're like, oh, we don't really have crises. We have crises every day, the everyday daily hassles of life. But they don't believe that, okay, if you don't get an intimate partner, your world is over.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to remind, you know, my students, okay, these are theorists. They're not etched in stone. That's just their theory. How, you know, everybody in, you know, the world of psychology, they're like, oh, Freud is weird. I like Freud because I think he's weird. You know, he's interesting to me because I'm like, well, how did you come up with that? But I think that some of the things that Freud says that is true. We do things sometimes because of our unconscious. So then you have to decipher, well, do I really want to dig into my unconscious to figure out why I'm doing it? Or am I just okay with doing it because I'm scared of what the unconscious says? So yes, where he has his psychosexual stages that some people like, he's strange. Some of the unconscious thoughts and motivations, I do feel like he's on the market with.
Mm.
What I try to do is just take a little bit from each theorist, and move forward. Because I do believe that we do things sometimes and we don't know why. And do you, like I said, some people are scared. They're like, I don't want to know. But then some people are, like I tell people in, you know, my class, like, if it's serious, where I've worked with clients where they've come to me and said, I was coming home from work on the train and I had this scent and it just sparked out of control. And now I have a problem with my husband, but I don't know why. So then at that point, yes, we need to figure out what you're holding or what you're repressing in your unconscious to figure it out. Sometimes it's okay that we don't know what's going on. But I do feel that Freud is accurate on that part. I do, even though, yes, I think we have daily crises, I do think that, you know, there is a point with some of his psychosocial crises or situations that we want to accomplish. I would not want to get to retirement and say, I didn't like my career. You know, like I tell my students now, I took a $50,000 cut in pay to come down to North Carolina, but guess what? I'm happy.
Wow.
I love what I do. And I didn't realize how stressed I was until I moved here. And it took my sister-in-law to say, you're happier.
Mm.
And then I have to tell them money isn't everything. But of course, they're younger and they're not there yet. And I get it. But
Right.
yeah, I want to be able to say I loved what I did. You know, I made a difference in the world. So I feel that when I get to that part, I'm okay. I can retire and be happy.
Yep. Yep.
And take care of my grands that my child keeps telling me she's gonna move me into a different house for. So I can take care of them, I guess. That's her plan.
Right, right. I see 2 hands up. I see Lisa, you wanted to say something to chime in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, what you were talking about looking back and reflecting. I consider myself to be very retrospective. I go back and break everything apart and psychoanalyze it. And I'll plan in my head, for personal things, major things for, sometimes up to a year. And then when I pull a trigger, people think I'm crazy because they go, where'd that come from? I'm like, oh, I've been planning to do this. So you're in Raleigh, North Carolina area. I actually resigned from my job and moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. And people said, why Raleigh? I said, why not? And I had been in prayer with God and asking God, where am I going? And all the answers kept coming and everything fell into place. And I was in North Carolina for 6 years. Did what
Wow.
I didn't do what I thought I had intended to go there for. God had a different plan, but it was fruitful and it was beneficial. And when it was over, I knew, and I came back to Georgia. But I'm very retrospective and looking back, and it helps me personally to go back and peel it apart and go, okay, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And there's always a silver lining. There's always some good in every situation.
Yes.
If you look for it, if you choose to cling to the good in the situation versus looking at the bad.
Yes. And
I
that
remember
goes-
to piggyback
I just
on
wanted
that.
to
Okay,
just talk about that principle. Everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
Know that God knows what's best for you. And if he's putting you through something, it's probably to get you ready for something else. So
Yes. I remember one time I was fussing with my daughter when we were in Maryland and trying to get into DC, and she had me late for work and I was hot. And then it was an accident.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, Lord, if I would have been on time, I would have been in that accident.
wow.
I said, but you made it where I was late. And because at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna be late. And then once I realized it was an accident, from that day on, I don't care if I sit in traffic for 3 hours. There's a reason why I'm in traffic and I'm okay with it.
Look at that.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at that. Now you're trusting God, and he used the child, like you just never know what he's orchestrating, but we have to know that God knows what's best for us. If God be for us, who can stand against us? So that is a great perspective for us to always keep that in our minds when we have these what we would consider a failure or a setback. There's I've preached this. A setback is a setup. I've preached that before, and you just never know what's happening. But this is where trust grows. Trust grows in the valley. When you're in that valley, just you and God, you're growing towards God. You're building your faith, and one thing time is on your side. You're going to get out of it. When you get out of it, you want to get out of it with a story that that it was none but God. And we've all been in those situations when we know it was none but God. That is it. Matter of fact, there's a young lady, y'all know Joy Johnson. She started a t-shirt company called But God, because the experience they have had, and they know it has been nothing but God,
Right.
That is so true. Anyone else have a question for Dr. Robinson? I have a comment. When you talk about, what motivates you, I always try to keep in perspective the why, the why am I doing this? And that's where the vision boards and all those things come in perspective, because I'm a visual person. So I have to have things around me, your why may be your family. So that picture may be dead center. Most people will have a picture of their family on their desk because no, this is why I'm not quitting this job, because I got responsibilities. Sometimes you have to keep that why, and that why will motivate you. There's a lot of us on here with some health issues. If we don't complete this 8-week challenge, it's like, what's going to happen? Is it going to get worse because I didn't do anything, or because the little bit I did in this 8 weeks is going to help me to go more weeks to live a healthier lifestyle? The why has to be in your perspective. I asked them to do an 8-week vision board so they can continually know the why. This is why I'm doing it. I need this number to be this number, when I go back to the doctor, so the why is so important. And and you have to know what your why is emphatically for you to stay on the course. You know, that for me, this is one way. You know, I may get sidetracked, but I ain't going back. This is one way. And I had such a horrible experience when I came down here. Me and my husband, we just jumped. Nobody had a job when they got here. We just jumped. Okay, I'm gonna walk. We're gonna get there. Everything's gonna be fine. We have these skill sets that we should get jobs like that. You know, that's how it was in New York. We got down here. That was not the case. It was a very tough 2 years, you know, and I was like, I'm not going back to New York. I don't know what happens. This is one way. There's no way. And I had to keep just, you know, just humble myself. You know, I took jobs. I hear you talking about, you know, you took a $50,000 less money. And I feel you on that, because I had to do some things that I hadn't did it a long time, but because of who I am, because of what I know that it's any means necessary for me. You know, some money is better than no money. You know, I talk to myself. A little bit is better than nothing, you know, and I have to keep myself on course. You know, what that song says, sometimes you have to encourage yourself any way, shape, or form. And that's what I had to do. And to God be the glory. You know, I had my information out on LinkedIn and got a call out of the blue. Well, I know that call wasn't out the blue. I'm a woman of faith. God heard my prayers. God, forget it. God heard my mother's prayers, because I had them in my mother's ears telling her, like, what's happening here? And, you know, God be the glory. By faith, you know, it happened. I was able to get a job and continue to go on. So yeah, it's in those valleys where we grow, and our story is going to keep turning. Chapters are going to close, and we're going to start new ones. And, you know, and we have to know that. But I want to be able to always tell that story, no matter what, where God was, where he was, where was he? And there's so many people are, you know, when I have to counsel people, they don't see God. You know, like, you gotta be kidding. This is straight black. I have some friends right now that in straight black right now. And you have to just be that light. You know, there is light, there's always light. and sometimes God wants us to be the light, you know. So, you know, I say all that to say is just, we gotta keep going.
Yeah.
No quitters and go diggers. I keep telling you, no quitters. No. No. So go ahead, Dr. Robinson.
I was just going to piggyback. So there's two different types of motivation that we talk about a lot of time. One is intrinsic, so that you don't get a reward out of it. You do it because you love it. So, you know, like Kayla likes volleyball. Yeah, right now her goal is to get a scholarship, but she likes the game. She likes that sport. Then you have extrinsic, where your end goal is, okay, I need something to get out of it. So whether you're in class and you want to get an A, or you're working and you want to get a paycheck, which we all do, but the hope is that we still love our job at the end of the day. So those are the two types of, hey, what motivates us and how do we handle those motivations? And is there a time when we can find both, you know, where, you know, like I think it was Miss Turner that said, you know, you know, motivates me is helping somebody else. So, you know, can you find a job where you're helping others and be happy? And then I guess for me also, we talked about earlier, the naysayers or the Debbie Downers, where, you know, you got to leave them wherever they are, because you're going to always have somebody that says you can't do it.
Right.
And, you know, you got to surround yourself with people who are supportive, and support doesn't always have to be, you're telling me, yeah, girl, you got to go do it. You may say, okay, you can do it. However, let's talk about, or let's think about what you may encounter so that it can prepare me.
Right.
You know, so I like to surround myself with those type of individuals. You don't have to agree with me, but, you know, one, be there to, if I do stumble, pick me up, but also just say, hey, just is something I want you to think about, so that, you know, if you do have this stumble block or this setback, you're already prepared and you're okay.
Please,
Amen.
Lisa, I'd like to piggyback off of that a little bit. You also have to be really careful who you share your dreams with,
I agree.
because people will talk you out of your dreams and talk you out of your success or talk you out of your blessing. I had lost my job in 2012 and couldn't find a job for almost 2 years and wasn't concerned at all, ahead of this planned, company department-wide layoff. And so I just kind of, took it in stride. And then I was like, oh, wait, I can't find a job. Oh, wait, what's going on? Was 10 days away from losing my house. The young lady who answered the phone for a state-run program called Home Safe Georgia tried to talk me out of completing the paperwork and going through with the program that she was an administrator for, and said, well, sometimes we just lose our houses and we have to start over. I lost mine. I had to start over. And I almost let her talk me out of it. And something in my head clicked. God was like, don't listen, just do the paperwork. I did the paperwork. It went through and they paid my mortgage for the next 2 years, even though I got a job making more money than I ever had in my life. They continued to pay all but $270 of my entire mortgage. $270 was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can pay that. And when I had to recertify, I kept thinking, oh gosh, they're gonna kick me out of the program. They're gonna kick me out of the program. I got 2 years out of it, but I was this close to letting that young lady, who clearly was bitter about what she had been through, and thought that her story was going to be my story. And God said, no, just tune it out, do the paperwork and send it in. So you really have to be careful who you share your dreams with, and not to let people talk you out of your goals and your blessings as well.
I agree.